Today I am making a free-form tart made with nectarines and blackberries, which is one of my favorite desserts because it's rustic, it's easy, but the flavor is really impressive. It all starts with using a good dough. Don't use anything from the supermarket, make it yourself. It's easy to make, and actually you can make them in bulk at the beginning of the summer, store them in the freezer, and then just pull them out whenever the fruit looks good. To make this dough, I combined 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and half a teaspoon salt in the food processor. Then I sprinkled 10 tablespoons of unsalted butter that was chilled and cut into smaller pieces over the top of the flour and pulsed it in until the mixture resembled coarse crumbs. Then I dumped the whole thing into a big bowl, added about 6 tablespoons of water, and pushed it together into a dough using a spatula. Then shaped the whole thing into a round, wrapped it in plastic, and chilled it in the fridge for about an hour. All right, so this dough has been sitting out for a few minutes to make it a bit more malleable and easy to roll out. And I like rolling the dough out on a sheet of parchment paper. I'm actually gonna bake the tart right on the parchment. Once it's on the parchment, it's really easy to move around. So putting a little flour on the parchment, a little flour on top. The flour, if you think about it, just acts like ball bearings, making it really easy to roll out the dough without sticking. Look how easy this dough is to roll out. It is just a dream. Now you don't have to roll it out too big, only about 12 inches. And it doesn't have to be perfect. That's another reason I like this dessert. All right, that's pretty good. I know that's 12 inches because I make it all the time. And it overhangs the parchment ever so slightly. All right, so now using the parchment, I'm gonna slide the dough right onto the rim baking sheet. All right, so fruit for today, nectarines and blackberries. But you could use plums, you could use peaches, any stone fruit and any berry combination will work here. So you need a pound of stone fruit and a cup of berries. Now I'm just gonna take the pits out. And to do that, I like cutting across the nectarine equator, and then you can twist it open and then the pit sticks up. So you can easily just pop it out with your fingers. Works really well with peaches too. All right, so I'm just gonna cut them into wedges that are about 1/2 inch thick, thereabouts. All right, these are gonna go into a nice big mixing bowl. To the nectarines, we're gonna add some blackberries. This is a cup of blackberries that I washed already. Now this fruit really doesn't need much embellishment, just a little sugar to bring out the sweetness. And I like using turbinado sugar. I like the crunch, I like the slight molasses flavor you get, but regular sugar would work well too. I'm gonna add about 3 tablespoons. That's my standard. I'm also gonna add a little vanilla. You can use vanilla extract, but vanilla bean paste I think works really well here because it's more of a gel, more of a solid, so it doesn't add any liquid into the filling. So I'm gonna add about 1/2 teaspoon. There we go. And that's it. Just gonna toss this around a little bit. Oh yeah. All right, now to assemble the fruit tart, I'm just gonna pile the fruit right into the center of the dough. You wanna leave the edges clear, a couple inches of the edges clear. So make a nice little pile. And I found if you have a piece of fruit sticking up like this, it'll burn a little bit, which tastes delicious, but looks a little weird. So you wanna knock down any fruit that's really just sticking up. Perfect. All right, now we're gonna fold up the dough around the fruit, and there's really no wrong way to do this. So you're gonna pick up the dough, fold it up on top. We're gonna leave the center open. And then just pleating the dough every so often so that it folds up around and just starts to go over the top of the fruit. But by leaving the center open, you let all that moisture evaporate so the dough doesn't get too soggy. Perfect. So a galette like this does have a tendency to leak, which is no big deal. But one way to prevent that is to press the dough together right at the corner, right where the sides of the dough meet the bottoms. Push that together. It just makes the dough a little sturdier right at that breaking point, that side. That's the weakest part of the whole tart. Just help trap in some of those juices. I actually think the juices look pretty, and they taste pretty good when the juices leak out and caramelize. So no love lost there. So now I'm gonna sprinkle a little sugar over the top of the tart, because if you remember, there's no sugar in the dough. And that's on purpose because that makes the dough a little short, makes it more likely to break open and crack open during baking. But it also means if you don't have sugar in the dough and you have it in your freezer, you can use it for anything. You can use it for sweet or a savory galette because you could swap in tomatoes here, you could swap in zucchini, eggplant. It's a really good all-purpose dough. So to help the sugar stick, just brushing some water on the sides of the dough. All right, that looks pretty good. Now a little bit more of this turbinado sugar right over the dough. I'm using my hand to prevent it from bouncing all over the sheet pan too much. You can see it just sticks right to the dough. Almost turns that dough into a cookie. So about 2 tablespoons. All right, this galette is ready for the oven. 400 degrees, lower middle rack. That lower middle rack really just helps the bottom of the tart cook through and brown. It takes a little less than an hour, 50, 55 minutes. And you know it's done when the pastry is nice and golden and the fruit is bubbly. And that's the tart. Let's take it out and see how it's looking. Oh, she's a beauty. Look at that, the crust is gorgeous and golden. Leaked a little bit, that's okay. That happens with freeform fruit tarts, especially when they're really juicy. You can see those juices bubbling. All right, we're gonna let this cool on the pan about 10 minutes, let it firm up a bit. Then I'm gonna slide it onto a wire rack and let it cool a bit more. You can serve this tart warm or at room temperature. All right, it's time to taste the tart. It's cooled nicely. Got a nice big fat wedge for myself. Oh yeah. You can serve this with vanilla ice cream or you could use creme fraiche, but I like just a little bit of slightly sweetened whipped cream, just a little bit. Haha, that looks like my kind of dessert. Get a little bit of the nectarine, a little bit of the blackberry. The crust is buttery. The nectarines and the blackberries have intensified in their flavor. This is a good, easy dessert. It's perfect. See you next time. Thanks for watching. What'd you think? Leave a comment below and let me know what you're excited to cook this week. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. You can get today's recipes and more for free at our website, americastestkitchen.com/JuliaAtHome.